Hi there, so today we are looking at the Sirui 16mm T1.2, perhaps the most versatile lens in Sirui's Nightwalker series, given its 24mm full-frame equivalent field of view. Now, the great thing about fast wide-angle primes is how they allow you to get a wide variety of coverage. You can move in close for your close-ups and inserts and take a few steps back and do your medium and your wide shots with pretty much the same lens. And at T1.2, you're still able to get a decent amount of subject separation. With that said, I'm actually quite impressed, and I hope the sample footage in this video will give you a fair idea of what to expect in terms of sharpness and the overall optical performance of this lens. And I will do my best to include as much sample footage in this video as possible. It's surprisingly sharp with just a tiny amount of fall off towards the edges if you're shooting wide open, which is also where we can see some flaring and some veiling that we'll take a closer look at once we've gotten through some of the technical things and stuff that at least I think can be good to know about the Nightwalker lineup. The Nightwalker series is a line of super affordable Super 35 cine lenses with fast T1.2 aperture, or iris since we're actually talking about cine lenses. All Nightwalker lenses has a 67mm filter thread and a uniformly designed metal housing to make the iris and the focus ring appear at the same position once you start swapping lenses if you're using a follow focus. The focus ring feels very nice and smooth with a 270-degree throw, and I would actually give it a solid 9 out of 10 as it's actually very pleasant to rack focus on this lens. The iris ring is slightly stiffer, which I actually really like, but it's still nice and smooth without feeling sticky or grindy. And honestly, the level of build quality and precision of this little lens is quite surprising given it's only like $300, give or take. And in true cine lens style, we got distance markings in meters that can be viewed from both sides of the lens. In my opinion, the price makes these a great option if you're looking to buy either a complete set or maybe start building a set of matching lenses over time as you discover what focal length you actually enjoy shooting with. Another cool thing that I discovered is that you can buy this 1.25x anamorphic adapter for the Nightwalker lenses, which essentially will give you two sets of lenses, or at least a wider variety of looks that you can achieve from the same set of lenses. Now, the great thing about a 1.25x stretch is that it's going to be a more subtle effect, meaning that you're probably going to be able to get away with adding some of that extra sauce to more types of footage and use it on more projects overall, compared to the 1.5 times anamorphic that we used to shoot some of the B-roll in this video with. So a 1.25x stretch might actually be more useful if you're doing a lot of projects that require 16:9 and 9:16 deliverables. And speaking of looks, it definitely has a more organic look compared to something like a modern photography lens. And I'm guessing that's why you're kind of interested in these types of lenses in the first place. That said, it's still fairly neutral, which actually makes it usable for both narrative work, but also for corporate interviews and that sort of stuff. So, like we mentioned briefly in the beginning, a lot of cinema lenses have a tendency to flare and veil much easier than a modern photography lens. And that usually comes down to the amounts of coatings and the types of coatings used on cinema glass to give you this more organic and filmic look. In this shot, I was actually able to get this pretty wild looking rainbow flare, which I guess might be a little over the top in some corporate interviews, but if you're shooting something more creative, then playing around with these types of flares can definitely add an extra dimension or some extra sauce to your footage. But with that said, I do recommend using a matte box to get more control over your image when you're shooting with these types of lenses. And I'm using the matte box mini from Small Rig, which I've done a whole separate video on that I will link down below if you're interested. Now, just a heads up here, I might have been just a tiny bit sloppy when I tried to line everything up last night for the test charts here, but as cinematographer Greg Fraser said, we're oftentimes not making movies about test charts. So if we take a look at this one shot at T1.2, we can see some of that fall off towards the edges, which is, well, at least personally, something that I appreciate with cine lenses to kind of avoid that broadcast look that you might be getting if you're using a photography lens. Now, if we stop it down to T2.8, we get some more sharpness across the entire frame at 5.6. Frame is looking really nice and even across the entire plane. But I did manage to get the distortion side fairly straight and level, and as you can see, it shows us very low amounts of distortion, which means that you don't have to get too worried about that fisheye effect when you're moving in to do your close-ups and insert shots and that sort of stuff. Now, if we take a look at the bokeh, I actually think the bokeh is surprisingly creamy and smooth on this lens. And remember, it's actually a wide-angle lens. We can see a tiny bit of character in these smaller points and in our specular highlights, but just enough to avoid that sterile broadcast look that we talked about earlier. So, what's the final verdict? Should you be investing in Sirui Nightwalker lenses or should you stay away from them? And I just want to repeat myself here and say that I've only used 16mm, so the performance of this lens is what I'm kind of basing my final thoughts on here. And if we start with cons, well, the only thing I can think of, given the rock bottom price of these lenses, would be if there's any minor inconsistencies between the different lenses in the series when it comes to things like color matching and that sort of thing. But given the fact that Sirui has been doing this for quite a while, that might be a non-issue, honestly. So I'm only speculating on that end when it comes to cons, for that matter. And, you know, if we move over to the pros section, we are talking about some crazy affordable lenses, obviously, but they do perform extremely well, at least the 16. And in my opinion, they can be used for a number of different things, given the fact that they're pretty neutral and clean, and also very, very easy to work with. I haven't noticed much in terms of chromatic aberration or any focus breathing for that matter either, which is also very, very impressive. So yeah, at least according to me, and I know there's a lot of people raving about the Nightwalker lenses already, they seem to be a good place to start if you're looking to put together a versatile kit of cine lenses for your Super 35 camera. And that anamorphic adapter, I can't stop thinking about that adapter and how it will, you know, help you to get more looks out of your cine lenses. In fact, let me know if you think I should reach out to Sirui to see if they might be able to send me one of those adapters, maybe along with a slightly longer lens, so we could compare it to something like my 45mm 1.5 times stretch, just in terms of framing, usability, looks, that sort of stuff, because a lot of us are cropping our footage for 16:9 or 9:16 these days, so I think working with a 1.25x anamorphic stretch, even if it's not as cool as 1.5 or 1.8 or 2 times stretch, it still probably is going to give you that nice little extra sauce for your footage and make it a whole lot easier for you to create those various deliverables for your clients or for yourself. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There's gonna be links below to everything we talked about in this video, so take care and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.